Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to Anuj Jindal. Welcome to RBI 247 session. Tell me if everything is fine with the audio and the video so that we can start with the session. Till then, good evening everyone. Good evening Abhishek. Good evening AK. Good evening Shreya. Good evening Afsana. Good evening. Okay, thank you. Thank you for confirming. Let's begin with our session. Okay. Okay, so we have four news here with us. The first is regarding the RBI's governor speech. It is on the complaints that are being recorded by the RBI Ombudsman Office, and we are going to analyze some data that has been highlighted by the RBI governor while they were giving speech. So that is going to be very important for all of you. So that is the reason we have included that. Okay. Good evening, Yogendra. Good evening, Chef. Good evening, Pooja. Okay, so the second news is related to the SEBI. Again, SEBI has introduced one norm related to the right issues. We will learn what are right issues and what is the new norms that are being introduced by the SEBI with regards to right issues. Then we have systematically important insurers. So we are going to learn who are these banks, who are these insurance companies that are being considered as systematically important in the insurance sector. Then we have one news, or we can say it's very factual and database news, which talks about the disinvestment receipts that are being done by the government throughout the year. So we are going to learn this data and we are going to compare the current financial year 24 data with previous year data as well. So let's begin with our session. So the first one says that RBI organized an annual conference wherein RBI governor gave speech. This conference was held on March 17, 2025. अब ये जो date है, this date is not important, but you must be aware of this fact that this conference has been conducted around the corner of March 15, which is considered to be a which day? Consumer Rights Day. The World Consumer Rights Day. Considering the importance of this day, the RBI and the governor of the RBI wants to raise awareness to whom? To REs, that is regulated entities, and to customers regarding what? That how much complaints are being raised by the customers and what are the main concerns whenever we come to the customers. Customers need to be well aware of their rights, that they have that power, that they have that voice to raise against the regulated entities wherein they are being cheated and frauded by such regulated entities. First agenda is this. Now the second agenda is RBI needs to make regulated entities aware regarding what? That they have to be responsible enough to deal with such complaints, and the agenda is to reduce such kind of complaints that are very common in nature, and we will try to reduce the number of complaints by providing them good services, good quality of services to these citizens of India. So that is the major, we can say, agenda of such speech. So what was the theme of such speech? Was transforming grievance redress the AI advantage. So we are going to include, or as per the RBI governor, we are going to include artificial intelligence, the advantage of artificial intelligence in such sector wherein there are a lot of complaints are being recorded by the REs. So the conference was held around the corner of World Consumer Right Day, which is on 15th March, and the agenda is to raise the global awareness regarding basic human rights. Okay. Now these are the data that are being highlighted by the RBI governor during their speech. Okay. So the data says that in financial year 24, 95 scheduled commercial bank recorded 10 million, or we can say 1 crore of customer complaints, which is a huge number of complaints that are being recorded by the scheduled commercial banks, SCBs. Then it says 57% of the complaints has to, or we can say requires formal intervention of RBI Ombudsman Office. We know the RBI Ombudsman Office, there are how many RBI Ombudsman Office? Currently we have 24 offices, and they are dealing with 57% of the complaints, right? And it says that it requires formal intervention. Whenever I say that it's a formal intervention, that means all kind of investigation related to the case and resolution is being done by the office here. Complaints received under the scheme of RBI's integrated ombudsman scheme grew almost 50% per year for past 2 years. So again, this data is very important. For past 2 years, per year के हिसाब से, it has recorded a 50% of increase in the number of complaints, and it has reached to what? 9,34,000 number of complaints in financial year 24, which is very important data for you all to remember. Then the number of complaints processed by the office. The office of RBI Ombudsman has increased by 25%. So 25% increase हुआ है previous year से. Previous year कितना था? 2,35,000 complaints handle की थी RBI Ombudsman office ने. But now this number of complaints has been increased to 2,94,000 in financial year 24. तो यहाँ पर देख रहे हैं कि burden जो है, REs are not doing their job responsibly. They are not able to resolve that complaint at their end. ठीक है, तो वहीं पर ही नहीं खत्म हो रही है complaint. So complaint is escalated to the RBI Ombudsman office, which is creating a lot of burden for the office as well. And hence the RBI Governor through this data is saying that REs जो है उनको अपनी optimization जो है और effectiveness जो है in order to resolve such complaints must be increased by them. ठीक है, तो उसके लिए उन्होंने कुछ suggestions भी दिए हैं, and we are going to read that as well, but we have more data related to such complaints and we are going to learn that before. So now the complaints are being bifurcated based on the regulated entities. Now there are PSBs, private banks, NBFCs, payment banks, and foreign banks. Now we are going to see how much complaints has been we can say recorded by each and every bank. So if I talk about the PSB, they have received the highest number of complaints. And this chart here compares two data based on the year, that is in financial year 23 and financial year 24. So we can see that there has been an increase in the number of complaints comparing it with the financial year 23 and financial year 24 for the public sector banks. But the increase is very minimal, or we can see there is a 10% of increase in the PSB's complaint. It is the highest but have received the lowest growth. इसका क्या मतलब है कि PSBs के पास सबसे ज्यादा नंबर ऑफ कंप्लेंट्स आई हैं, बट इस साल इन फाइनेंशियल ईयर 24 उनके पास उनकी जो ग्रोथ हुई है नंबर ऑफ कंप्लेंट्स वो कम हुई है कंपैरेटिवली टू अदर काइंड ऑफ रेगुलेटेड एंटिटीज. इफ वी कंपेयर इट विद द प्राइवेट बैंक्स, we can say the private banks have the second largest number of complaints, but the increase from financial year 23 to 24 is very substantial in nature. It's very huge increase, and it has recorded 37% of the growth in number of complaints. If we talk about the NBFCs, again they are the third largest entities that have received the largest number of complaints from the customers, and we can see yes, there is a substantial growth comparing it with the financial year 23, and so on and so forth. So you just have to remember the trend and or we can say the top firms, top REs based on their number of complaint. So PSB is the one in number of ranking of number of complaints, then private sector banks, then NBFCs are the third one, and so on and so forth, payments bank, and then foreign banks receive the lesser, or we can say the least number of complaints. Okay. Then we have top categories जहां से हमको ज्यादा से ज्यादा कंप्लेंट्स आ रही है, फ्रॉम वेयर द कंप्लेंट्स आर बीइंग रेज्ड बाय द कस्टमर्स. सो बेसिकली the largest number of complaints that are being received by the regulated entities are related to the mobile and internet banking. So based on these two, we can say sector, the REs have received the largest number of complaints. If we talk about the loans and advances, it is the second one in terms of the major issue that are being dealt by the regulated entities. Opening or operations of the deposits account से related जितनी भी complaints हैं, then they are the third one, and so on and so forth. Credit card से related कुछ complaints हैं, and then ATM CDM इससे related कुछ complaints हैं जो regulated entities keep on resolving. ठीक है, complaints तो common हैं in issues. Then there is a geographical dispersion in terms of complaints. तो per 1 lakh accounts पर कितनी complaints आती हैं? So if we talk about Chandigarh is the first, we can say, state in where they have received the largest number of complaints. So per 1 lakh accounts pe they have received 25.7 we can say complaints, and so on and so forth. Then Delhi is the second one. Third rank पे कौन है? राजस्थान, and then Gujarat is the fourth one, and lastly we have Uttarakhand. तो ये जो आपको ranking है ये आपको जरूर याद रखनी है. This is very important from the exam point of view. So over 70% of the complaints came from the urban and the metropolitan areas, suggesting that city customers face more issues and more likely to be report them, because people in the urban areas are using digitalized, we can say, payment, and they are more aware of their rights, and that is the reason that we are facing more and more complaints from the urban and metropolitan areas. I hope it is clear. Then RBI Governor suggests some of the suggestions for the REs, that you have to look at the grievance redressal every week to review and improve the customer service in the system itself. So they are suggesting REs to look at your own system. Why we are receiving a lot of complaints, or we can say complaints are being escalated to the RBI Ombudsman office, which is not a good sign. And that is the reason it is creating a lot of cost for them. It is taking a lot of time of the RBI Ombudsman office, and that is the reason they are asking REs to make, or we can say improve, their respective customer service system. Then they have to look at the common issues, and we are going to identify such common issues, and the REs will work on these common issues so that they can reduce the number of complaints that are very common in nature. These can include transaction failures and unauthorized charges that are being done by the REs for customers. Banks should ensure root cause analysis. So what is the root cause of such? They have to identify what is the root cause of such complaints. They have to look after that, and they have to resolve it. They have to resolve it from the very basic, or we can say from the root itself, so that such kind of complaints do not occur again and again to the REs. Then we are not going to just rely on the technology, because as per RBI's governor's speech, they are saying technology cannot replace the empathy. Now whenever we are dealing with humans, whenever we are dealing with customers and their complaints, they require relief, they require empathy whenever we are dealing with them. So technological advances cannot deal with such things. Okay, so that is the reason RBI governor says that you have to train your staffs, you have to make them skillful enough to deal with such customers, to deal with their complaints as well, in a right way and in a proper way, which is very important. We are going to use technology, but in some other areas where human intervention can be avoided, and we will look at that, what kind of areas where AI can be used or where technologies can be used. So every bank should have at least 2 levels of grievance redressal. So this is a very important statement that is being given by the RBI governor, that in one single RE, one single regulated entity should have two levels of grievance redressal, wherein the highest level of the grievance redressal will be dealt by the key senior, we can say, officer of the bank, so that they can make good decision making with regards to the complaint and their rights as well. Then there are some other suggestions by the RBI governor. They says that for the KYC, you will not ask for the submission of the same document. Once the customer have submitted one information with you, you have to ensure that you are providing the same to the centralized KYC, so that one customer do not have to give all the same information again and again to you. Okay. Then debt collection should be ethical in nature, and that should not involve any kind of harassment. There has been many cases wherein the customer, or we can say the borrower, is not able to pay the debt. So that is the reason banks do unethical practices or harass the borrower in order to collect, or we can say in order to get all the funds back. But this is not ethical in nature, and that is the reason RBI governors suggest, or we can say recommended REs to not to use any kind of harassment or use ethical and proper ways to recover your loans. And there should be no any mis-selling of the financial product. Now this includes insurance. So basically they are talking about the insurance product. What banks do in order to sell these insurance product, they mis-sell it by giving wrong promises, and which is not good in nature. We are not going to advertise such insurance product. We just need to provide such facility to the customer so that they are able to use such basic financial services or basic financial products. We are not there to advertise such products. So there should not be mis-selling of such products. Use of AI. They are saying that use this technology, use this artificial intelligence in classifying the complaints based on the agency. Based on the urgency of the customer's complaint, classify it as the highest priority or the lowest priority. Identify the pattern of the customer complaints. So AI can be used in identifying what is the pattern of customer complaints and why they are keep on asking such kind of questions, so that AI can resolve it at the very basic level of such complaint. Chatbots and the chatbots can be used for the customer support. So we all know chatbots are there in each and every website, wherein basic knowledge and basic factual things can be resolved by the AI itself through a chat with artificial intelligence. Now there are some risks highlighted by the RBI governor regarding the same. They are saying along with artificial intelligence, the use of artificial intelligence, we want you all to be use all the data, but in a very secure and safe manner, because there are high chances of cyber threat to the same. And there are being chances, or they have highlighted one thing wherein they are saying that algorithm biases can be there with the use of AI. अब AI क्या होता है, that gives you same kind of resolution every time you ask. तो एक तरह का एल्गोरिदम फेवर करता है एक ही तरह के रिस्पॉन्ड को. So there should be diverse, or we can say number of response that must be given by the AI. अब resolution जो होते हैं अगर एक human देगा तो that could be creative enough, but artificial intelligence cannot give such creative, or we can say such increased number of resolution. तो वो एक ही तरह का algorithm जो है use करता है which is biased in nature. So that is the reason they are saying which is a risk in the artificial intelligence whenever we are using it the same in the customer complaints, in handling the customer complaints. So here we are done with the first news. The second news says SEBI cuts the right issue timeline. Now the timeline for these right issues has been reduced. Now what are these right issues? Right issues are the shares that are being issued by the company to its existing shareholders. To their existing shareholders. And these existing shareholders have option whether they would like to buy it or not to buy it. So they have full opportunity, or we can say full option with them, that whether they would like to take this opportunity given by the company to sell their extra shares to the existing shareholder. So whenever a company share extra shares, or we can say new shares to existing shareholder, we will call it as right issues. Now earlier the right issues were issued in 126 days, which was taking a lot of time for the companies to raise money. And that is the reason SEBI decided that we need to cut this timeline. We need to cut this timeline, and they have reduced it to 23 days, which is very helpful for the companies to raise money very quickly. If we compare it with the preferential issues wherein company sell its new shares to particular group of investors. Now there is a particular group of investors to whom they are selling their new shares. They are named as preferential issues because you are giving preference to one single group of investors, and that is the reason that it is more better. The right issues are better than the preferential issues because these takes 40 days. These take 40 days to raise money, and that is the reason, in order to reduce such timeline and in order to help companies to raise their funds quickly, they have reduced the timeline for the right issues. It would be effective from April 7, 2025. Now this date and this timeline is very important, and timeline for preferential issues, that is 40 days timeline for the preferential issues, is also very important for your exam point of view. Now there are some other norms as well along with such reduction in the timeline. They are saying that such subscription, the subscription for these right issues would be available from 7 to 30 days. So they have set a day that for minimum days you have to keep your right issues subscription open for a minimum days of 7, and you can keep it open for a maximum days of 30. So I hope it is clear. Then who will take care of such allotment? So stock exchanges, depositors and registrar. In order to make sure that it is transparent and accurate process, they are going to look at the applications that they are receiving from the existing shareholders, whosoever is requesting for the right issues. They will look at the applications and they will also allot the same in respective manner based on their demand. Okay, so with this we are done with the second news as well. Very simple, no technicality. You just have to remember some facts कि right issue की timeline जो है 126 से 23 days कर दी गई है. It will be effective from 7th of April 2025, and preferential shares की timeline क्या है? 40 days hai, which is a better, we can say right issue is a better opportunity for the companies to raise money very quickly if we compare it with the preferential issues. Here we are with the third news. Again, it's a very short news. We are going to understand what is it. So basically जैसे हमारे domestic systemically important banks होते हैं. Now these banks are the one which are too big to fail because their interconnectedness with other banks can hamper their performance as well, hamper performance of other banks. Which can hamper the whole banking system as well. Banking system. And that is the reason there are few number of, we can say, banks that are be considered as systemically important banks. Now just like this, we have systematically important insurer companies as well. So insurance, that is IRDAI, the regulator of the insurance sector, have highlighted, or we can say have given a updated list of such insurance company which are systematically important for the insurance sector and they are too big to be failed. So which are these insurance companies? So basically there are 3 public sector insurance companies that are being considered as D-SIIs. So first one is LIC. LIC is a very big company in terms of, we can say, insurance companies, and it is very we can say the interconnectedness and the number of products they offer is very huge, and their, we can say, their reach is huge in the insurance sector, and that is the reason they are considered as D-SIIs. If we talk about the second one, it is General Insurance Corporation of India. इट इज अ री इंश्योरेंस कंपनी. हमने हमने पिछले कुछ सेशन में इसके बारे में पढ़ा था. इट इज अ री इंश्योरेंस कंपनी दैट इंश्योर्स विच इंश्योर्स इंश्योरेंस कंपनी. सो देखिए इस कंपनी के ऊपर बहुत सारी इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज की क्या है, इंश्योरेंस है. दैट इज मिटिगेटिंग the risk of these insurance companies, and that is the reason they are considered as SIIs, that is systematically important insurers. The third one is New India Assurance Company. Again ये private sector insurance company है which is too big to be failed. Very simple news, very factual news. इसमें कुछ समझाने वाला नहीं था. It is just like that. ठीक है. So with this we are done with the third news as well. Here we are with the fourth news which talks about the disinvestment receipts in financial year 25. ठीक है. Disinvestment क्या होती है? It is the opposite of investment. Whenever we make investment, we convert our money into some kind of asset, or we can say some kind of derivative, so that it generates value for me. Value in terms of it gives me some kind of return, it gives me some kind of dividend, it gives me some kind of income. So I am converting my money into some, we are investing it some money into some derivative or asset which is giving me return. So I'll call it as investment. Very simple. If I talk about the disinvestment, so I am selling my or converting my derivatives, my shares, whatever I have in my hand, into money, and I'll call it as disinvestment. Now the government holds various kind of stakes in the public sector enterprises, and they hold ownership. So ownership कब हो जाती है? When 51% of the shares are being held by the, so basically 50% से ज्यादा अगर शेयर्स होल्ड करती है कोई भी एक पर्टिकुलर इंडिविजुअल या फिर एंटिटी, यहाँ पर इस केस में हम गवर्नमेंट का एग्जांपल ले रहे हैं, तो गवर्नमेंट अगर 50% से ज्यादा स्टेक होल्ड करती है, शेयर्स होल्ड करती है, तो उस केस में वी विल कॉल इट एज ओनर ऑफ द कंपनी. ठीक है. तो गवर्नमेंट्स की बहुत सारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस होती हैं. ठीक है. पब्लिक सेक्टर एंटरप्राइजेस हैं जो बहुत सारे एरियाज को केटर कर रही हैं, एंड दैट आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर द इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ. कोई एक कंपनी है दैट लुक्स एट द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, देयर इज वन कंपनी दैट लुक्स एट द टेलीकम्युनिकेशन, देयर इज वन कंपनी दैट लुक्स एट particular things. So there are various kind of public sector enterprises. Then when government sell their stakes, and they think that it is not giving me any kind of return, it is not giving me any kind of income, so they divest, we can say disinvest their money from that kind of company. And we are going to look at the disinvestment receipts that are being there in financial year 25. If I talk about this chart, we can see there is a least number of disinvestment made in financial year 25. It is 9,319 crore rupees of disinvestment. If I talk about the financial year 24 and financial year 23, we can see there is a huge number of disinvestment done by the government. And as per this data, it is saying that it is the lowest number of disinvestment that has happened since 2014-15. So it's the lowest disinvestment in last one decade. So this is significantly lower than the previous year, which is financial year 24, and even lower than the financial year 23. In 2022, financial year 2022, the disinvestment was something 13,534 crores, which is even lower than, which is we can say close to this number, but it is still lower than this. So this data is very important for you all to learn. ठीक है. ये अब phase 1 में आ सकता है. phase 2 में इसके chances थोड़े कम है, पर phase 1 में आ सकता है. phase 1 in general awareness. ठीक है. जब भी हम disinvestment की बात करते हैं, there are different strategies that the government follows. The first one is minority disinvestment, जहाँ पर they are just selling few number of shares, or we can say few percentage of their shares to the public or some any kind of private company. तो यहाँ पर 50% से कम divest करती हैं, यहाँ पर disinvest करती हैं. डिसइन्वेस्ट करती हैं यहाँ पर. If I talk about the majority disinvestment, यहाँ पर they are giving 50% of more than 50% of their shares to the private companies, but still hold the management part. But still hold the management. They have full control over the management of such company. If I talk about the privatization, प्राइवेटाइजेशन में फुल ओनरशिप जो होती है, फुल ओनरशिप इज ट्रांसफर टू द प्राइवेट कंपनी और पूरे 100% शेयर्स जो हैं ट्रांसफर कर दिए जाते हैं टू द प्राइवेट कंपनी. देन देयर इज वन मोर थिंग, वी विल कॉल इट एज स्ट्रैटेजिक डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट. नाउ हेयर अगेन मेजॉरिटी स्टेक जो है सोल्ड कर दिया जाता है बाय द गवर्नमेंट, बट ऑल्सो द कंट्रोल इज गिवन टू द प्राइवेट कंपनी ऑल्सो, and they still hold some minor stake in that. The government still holds some minor stake in that. So this was a static part of your disinvestment ka concept. Okay, so you must be very clear with such terminologies that there are 4 kind of strategies that are there in the disinvestment that government use. The first one is minority disinvestment, then majority is there, then privatization, full privatization is there, then there is systemic strategic disinvestment. Okay, now we can see the trend that इस साल जो हमारा रिसीट हुआ है डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट से, इट इज वेरी लेस. एंड व्हाट शुड बी द एजेंडा, what could be the agenda behind that? Agenda is कि गवर्नमेंट इज थिंकिंग दैट हम सिर्फ वहीं से डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट करें जहां से रिक्वायरमेंट है. जहां से रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है, जहां से हमें रेवेन्यू हो रहा है, अच्छा खासा इनकम आ रही है, एंड वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू डू एनी काइंड ऑफ डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट इन दैट काइंड ऑफ एरिया. सो बेसिकली नॉन कोर एरियाज जो प्रॉफिटेबल भी नहीं है and they are just building a lot of burden on the government, they are selling from that area. So they are focusing on the value creation. They are focusing on the value creation. The PSEs, the public sector enterprises that are skilled enough to give you profits and dividends and shares for the same. ठीक है? Optimizing PSE performance. So the focus is more on optimizing the performance of the companies instead of just selling them or just giving more and more privatization. Controlled share offloading. So they are just controlling their share offloading. They are not just doing it abruptly, but they are just strategically controlling that their shares so that they are having a right balance between selling their shares and offloading or just keeping some shares so that they are earning non-tax revenue as well with them. Privatization of select entities where feasible. So they are introducing privatization in certain companies wherever it is feasible. Okay, so I have discussed that. And what is the need of such disinvestment? To raise the revenue, it reduces the fiscal burden of the government. It also helps in reducing fiscal deficit. It improves efficiency and bring competition in the market. It reduces government burden, that I have told you recently that fiscal deficit को कम करने में भी it also helps. So the government policy shift and the current status is that since financial year 24 उन्होंने अब टारगेट होता था पहले बजट में that we are going to do this much of the disinvestment, but now they have reduced, or we can say eliminate such targeting, because they are finding a right balance wherein they are earning their non-tax revenues as well, and they are also keeping good competition, and they are giving non-core businesses to private companies which are more efficient and more good at doing such kind of activities in the economy. Okay. Okay, here we are with the questions. For the first question says, in the speech, RBI Governor emphasized on the role of the top management in the customer services in improvising the banking system in order to reduce the complaints. As per the RBI Ombudsman Conference 2025, over dash percentage of the complaints required formal intervention of the RBI ombudsman due to the bank's failure to resolve them effectively. So what is the right number of, we can say, percentage of complaints that are being received by the RBI ombudsman office? Right, 57% is the right answer. Okay, so the SEBI recently reduced the timeline for completing the right issues to dash. This moves aim to make the right issues a faster alternative to the preferential issues. So what is the right timeline that has been reduced to for the right issues? Right, B is the right answer, 23 days ka. They have reduced the timeline to 23 days. Okay, SEBI recently reduced the timeline for completing right issues to 23 days. Under the SEBI's new framework, the subscription period for the right issues must maintain open for minimum days of dash to the maximum days of dash. Right. D is the right answer. Minimum days is 7 and the maximum days is 30 for right issue subscription. Okay. So recently, IRDAI identified 3 public sector insurance companies as D-SIIs for financial year 24. Which of the following is not one of them? So कौन सा ऐसा बैंक है, बैंक्स हैं या फिर कौन से ऐसे सॉरी इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज हैं जो they are not a part of this D-SIIs? Not a part of, not one of them. Right. Right. Option E is correct, which is option 4 and 5 is they are not the companies, insurance company that are a part of D-SIIs. Okay. Financial year 25, India disinvestment receipts have reached dash so far, marking the lowest level of disinvestment receipt in since 2014-15. This is significantly lower than this financial year 24 and the collection that are being made in financial year 22. So tell me, what is the collection that will be made in financial year 25? Right. A option is correct. 9,319.05 crore of disinvestment receipts have been done, we can say, received by the government this year. Okay, so with this we are done with the session. I hope the session was fruitful for you. In case you have any doubt, you can ask me here. Swastika, you can go for the GA, you can go for business standard and live mint. Both are good, we can say, source of information for general awareness. The PDFs are available in the Telegram group. You can find the link of the Telegram group in the description box, and there you can find all our PDFs for these PPTs. योगेंद्र, आई थिंक दिस इज द राइट बैलेंस. एक बैलेंस क्रिएट करना बहुत ज़रूरी है, वेयर अब्रप्टली डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट करते जाना और अपनी जो स्टेक है, गवर्नमेंट का जो स्टेक है इंपॉर्टेंट कोर एक्टिविटीज़ में, वहां पर होना बहुत ज़रूरी है. अगर नॉन कोर एरिया है एक्टिविटीज़ का, जहां पर आप मानिए कोई इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ के लिए वो एंटरप्राइजेस हेल्प नहीं कर रही है और अच्छा रेवेन्यू भी नहीं दे रही है, ठीक है, और उस सेक्टर में कंपटीशन भी नहीं है, तो उस केस में फिजिबल प्राइवेटाइजेशन करना, और वी कैन से फिजिबल डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट करना, इट इज अ राइट डिसीजन. सो वी आर फोकसिंग ऑन द वैल्यू क्रिएशन. ठीक है, वैल्यू क्रिएट करना चाह रहे हैं फॉर द इकोनॉमी एंड फॉर द गवर्नमेंट एज वेल. Okay, Asta, I will tell you, I will resolve your this doubt in the comment section. Okay, I have noted that. Okay, till then, thank you everyone. I hope the session was fruitful. I hope you liked the session and keep on revising your finance current affairs. These are very important from the exam point of view. Till then, prepare well. Best of luck for your examination. Bye bye, everyone. Goodbye.